Spring has finally arrived, and after a long winter, I'm so eager to get started in the garden. But before I can actually start planting, I have to do a little prep work. So today I'm going to talk about what it takes to prepare your garden for spring. Hey, I'm Nadia at Embracing Harvest. If you want to eat local and seasonal food, hit that subscribe button below. Does your garden look like this? This is the sad state of my garden this year. Last year I had such a busy year. I had the birth of my second child. We did a huge home renovation. So the garden was unfortunately majorly neglected, to say the least. So I have a little bit of work to do to prepare my garden for spring, but fortunately I know exactly what I need to do to get that garden back in tip-top shape. So if your garden looks like this, no worries. If your garden is better than this, then it's even easier for you. There's just a couple of steps that you need to do to get your garden ready for spring planting. So I will show you exactly what I do. The first thing that I want to do is clear out all of the old plants, whether they are plants that I actually placed in the ground and I ate from, like a tomato plant that I never pulled at the end of last year, or if there's weeds or grass that's creeping into your bed or anything like that. You just want to get rid of all the plants that you don't want there. So if you have perennials, of course, keep those in because they'll come back for this spring, hopefully. And just the annuals and the weeds. So just go ahead and clear them all out of the bed. That's really step one to what you need to do. So just take your time. I mean, there's no rush. Try to enjoy the process a little bit. You're getting outside in the spring. You've been stuck inside all winter. So don't think of it as like a chore so much, because hopefully you don't have to be doing this all year. Just the one time in the spring, if you didn't have a chance to do it in the fall, just clearing out whatever you don't want in that bed and get a nice clean slate. And what do you do with all of the plant matter? You can either compost it in your own garden. Of course, I do that. If I have something that has a lot of weed seeds, like if I let something go to seed by accident, which I try not to do, but does happen, I usually send those out to the road. If you're not sure, or if you don't have a compost bin at home, then just send it all out to the road. You just use brown bags and just throw all of it, the plant matter in there, and most municipalities will take these, so just put them out in the road on your garbage day, or just check when your city takes plant matter. It's a loud bird. Can you hear it? So now that I've got all of the old plant matter out that I don't want, next thing I do, which is completely optional, but I do like to do this step, is add in any sort of soil amendments that I want. So for me, and for many people watching this video, I think the best option is going to be just straight up good old compost. Compost has a really nice balance of sort of everything, and you don't have to worry so much about what your specific soil needs. Now, if you know that your soil has some sort of issue that you're trying to correct, obviously go ahead and get whatever amendment that it requires. But unless you want to go down the road of like soil testing and really understanding the nuances of the soil, if you just have a couple of raised beds or a couple of pots, compost is honestly a really awesome choice for you, whether you use like animal manure, or my favorite, which is just composted plants. So vegetable scraps and just plants that I take from the garden at the end of the year. So what I've thrown in my compost in step one, next year or later on this year, depending on how involved I am in my compost, but usually next year, because I'm pretty passive about it. I'll actually have that compost to put in my next year's garden. So you can use whatever you want, but you can just buy bags of compost as well. It's really your choice. But ultimately, if you want to improve the nutrient quality of your soil, usually you'll have better yields. If there's any sort of deficiencies in your soil, compost will oftentimes correct those for you on their own. So it's a good practice to do that, but totally your call. If you don't want to do compost, or if you don't just want to just plant in there, you can go ahead and skip this step, no big deal. So once I've added my compost or whatever soil amendment you're using, then I just simply smooth out the soil. So I'm kind of stirring it in a little bit, but I'm not really actively working the soil at all. I'm not a big fan of tilling or working the soil too much. I just simply smooth it out. So if you happen to skip the soil amendment part and all you've done, you've cleared your bed, then you can just go ahead and smooth it all out. So the exact same way. And All we're doing is making it nice and even, so whether or not you're going to put seeds in the ground or whether or not you're going to put a plant in the ground, it's just a nice even surface area to plant in. Especially if you pulled out some bigger plants or some bigger weeds, there's going to be holes, right? Like there's going to be divots in the soil. So just by smoothing it out, it makes it a little bit nicer for you to plant, especially for seeds, but for anything that you're going to plant in, we'll be happy if you just give it a nice smooth bed. And there you go. That is all you need to do to get your beds beautiful, weed-free, and prepped for spring. The same thing would be true, so I showed you what I did in my raised bed. The same thing is true for rows. I grow both in raised beds and in rows, and I actually also grow in pots. I do the exact same process for all of them. So whatever your garden style is, if you have a balcony garden or if you have a traditional rows or if you have raised beds, it's the exact same practice. You just pull out the old stuff, throw in any amendments that you want to, and smooth out the soil. It's just that simple to get your bed ready for spring. So tell me, have you started thinking about your spring garden yet? What are you super eager to grow this year? I'd love to hear about it. Either let me know in the comments below or actually head on over to my website. Subscribe to my newsletter. I love to share stories and photos from the community. So if you have anything that you want to share, just email it over to me. My website and newsletter link are all in the description below. So I'd love to hear from you. I love sharing things with the community. I think it's so inspiring for us all to share our own stories. And if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, I'm all about local and seasonal eating. So whether I talk about cooking food or growing food, it's all that same umbrella about the beautiful food that comes from this earth. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.